Welcome everyone. I'm Professor Reggie Nell, the Dean of the Faculty of Theology at Stellenbosch University, and we are excited to share with you our journey, to share with you what we as a faculty offer. And today, together, we will share with some of our lecturers. We have Reverend Matulani, as well as Professor Christo Tisnar, both colleagues here at the Faculty of Theology, and they will also share a few of the exciting things that happens at the faculty. Now, maybe I should just add, Professor Christo Tisnar, he is also a father of one of our students, so he will also share a bit from that perspective. And Reverend Matulani's daughter just finished matric, so she also speaks from a particular perspective. Now, who is the Faculty of Theology at Stellenbosch University? In 1859, more or less, the then Dutch Reformed Church started what was known as the Theological Seminary, or in Latin, Theological Seminarium. And it was better known as the Kweek School. And eventually, in 1918, when the university started, this Kweek School, or this Theological Seminary, was the forerunner of the Faculty of Theology, but also the forerunner, in a sense, of the University of Stellenbosch. But in 1920, there was a Faculty of Divinity, and in 1963, the faculty became the Faculty of Theology at Stellenbosch University, combining the Faculty of Divinity with the Theological Seminarium, or the Kweek School. Today, we share a rich heritage. Of course, we have a difficult history as well, but as a faculty, our vision is to be sustainable as well as to be inclusive, and we are committed to social justice, transformation, and excellence. And that's what we are known for all over our continent globally, but also in South Africa. Now, let me ask, and we're going to have a conversation first, Reverend Matulani, our lecturer, to share us a bit, what is the kind of programs that the Faculty of Theology offer, and where you also play a part?
Thank you very much, Dean, and hi to the listeners. I'm going to mention the programs that we're doing and what the student could do afterwards, after those programs. We have, as you mentioned, the Bachelor of Divinity. We have the Bachelor of Theology, and the colleagues will help me I'll omit some. And we have a Bachelor of Theology in Youth Work.
Correct.
And that one, I'm going to say something a bit about it because that's exciting. I'm teaching that in a second semester. And Vietvat. Next year is going to be taught in 3 languages of the Western Cape. Mm-hmm. English, Afrikaans, and isiXhosa. And I will be initiating and pioneering that project of isiXhosa in the Faculty of Theology. And where are they going with this? All of this BDiv, BMTH, all of that. It's not necessarily going to church, but most of them do go to the church and are being called by the churches. But not necessarily, because in our department, for instance, with my colleague Christo here, we have community development, youth work, and people work in the communities with the NGOs that are in the community. We actually training young people that are going to be useful, not just in the pulpit, but in the community they live in the community that we're serving in the Western Cape.
Absolutely.
With that community development program that we have, I mean, we don't have to show people. We know the inequalities of the Western Cape. Those community development students, they're eager to go and actually make a change with the knowledge that they gain, and practically, not just a head knowledge. And in our faculty, is there anything that I'm leaving out?
No, that's fantastic. I think that's a wonderful start, wonderful kick-off. Some of our students become ministers. They end up in the pulpit, like Reverend Matulani says. Others ends up in school, others in settings in hospitals. Some end up in settings where they minister in prisons, but some of them also become journalists with a theological framework. Others become businesswomen, businessmen, making an impact also with a particular theological framework. Now, Professor Christo Tisnar, you you have been involved, I think, more than the two of us in the faculty. What would you say are the ways in which the faculty try to ensure the success of our students, in which ways in which they are also supported?
Thank you, Dean. Yes, we are very fortunate and privileged to be at this faculty. I think for us it's quite important to have a very strong emphasis on the relational realities, to have good relations with one another, to have good relations amongst the different groups, amongst the lecturers and students, etc. And we also try to see from our side, if we want to make a success of our faculty, we really need to have open debate, what we sometimes call courageous conversations, to make sure that we do not talk around the difficult issues, but really engage with them. Because the Faculty of Theology is not something outside or something very special or some kind of island where students go to. The Faculty of Theology engages with students and with the community, as my colleague has said. So we try to deal with the difficult issues and to try and create opportunities where students can reflect on the difficult issues, but also develop a language so they're able to engage in the practice outside of the university, but also inside of the university, of course. So in that sense, Dean, I think for us to try and see how successful we can train students, the focus is that we need to always remember we have to prepare students to be able to make a difference when they leave the university in the communities where they are. Our biggest challenge is that you train a student for a job that don't exist or for a world that does not exist. So therefore, success, I think, is measured in the way that we are able to translate the world outside of the faculty and the world outside of the university, the real world, into our realities of engaging with scripture, engaging with theology, engaging with practical theology, to see in what ways can we contribute in that sense. So I think that's quite important for us as a faculty to make sure that we develop those skills and that students are able to do that. Does that help?
Yes, no, definitely. And I mean, if you could narrow it down, in a sense, students are being provided with a particular lens to look at society, to look at the world, a particular perspective which challenge them to want to change or to want to be a healing influence in the society. Isn't that so?
Absolutely. And what's nice about our faculty is that we don't have a framework. So we try to constantly develop that framework, because society changes constantly. And the moment that we are stuck in a sense, in a certain framework, we tend to lose track with the outside world. So it's so important what you're saying, that the lens that we look at the world is always a lens that we need to clean regularly and make sure that lens is still responsible and it's still helpful in terms of dealing with the world.
Absolutely.
And just to add, Dean, the lenses that both of you guys talked about, that we do the teaching as different as we are as lecturers, because we also pride at being very diverse as a faculty in theology. And what I think it's a benefit and it's an advantage for a student that goes to the faculty is that she doesn't get to see the world in one lens. He is able to be introduced in different way of looking in our world, in different way of looking, particularly in South Africa. And that is not something we go and buy it at Woolworths. I mean, we're grateful for that.
Can I ask you, Reverend Matulani and Professor Tesnar, I want you put on a different hat now. You already have your hat on, a different hat on, a hat as the parent now. The parent now. If parents are watching this video, what is it that you would want to say to parents that this is what we as a faculty offer to young people who want to study? And then, Prof. Tesnar, I will ask you as a parent, what is it that you have experienced, but also what are the kind of things that parents can expect also from a faculty such as ours? Reverend from Matulani?
I just want to do the disclaimer which I didn't do at the beginning. This is not only a mask, it's a fashion statement, so that's why it's here. To answer your question, Dean, the students that come in that faculty, they are going to be challenged. That I must say, they are going to be challenged. To be able to grow, you need to be challenged. They come with their own frameworks. As my colleague said, they come with their own frameworks and of looking at life through the eyes of the Bible, from the preachers, from every other authority they heard the Bible from. And when they get there, the mat, so to speak, is actually being taken out, pulled off of their feet. And that is okay. Because that's where when you find you're going to be sort of lose balance a bit. But we're there to help you get back to the balance, and then you choose your own lenses of looking at the Bible. And that is what is happening there. There were times they will be like, oh my goodness, is this really a Christian thing? Why did I bring myself here? We actually help their minds to challenge, not to accept everything. And because of that, they leave the faculty being matured, broad-minded, open-minded young people that can serve South Africa in any sphere of life, not particularly in certain denomination, in certain religion, but they are also equipped to actually go and serve South Africa wherever God lives into. So embrace, buckle up. Yeah. Embrace to be challenged to grow.
And while you're giving over the mic, it's not always easy, but it is so crucial for a parent to let go of the child, to be shaken, to be challenged, to be able to find your place in the world and the impact that you can make. Prof. Desna?
Dean, thank you. Do you mind if I answer your question as a double barrel?
As a double barrel.
I'm first going to just reflect on the last comment you just made in terms of what these students go through, and then secondly, just speak to the parents specifically. It's very important, I think, for us as parents, and let me say I talk as a parent, but I also have talked to students for many years as they pass our faculty. So the few comments that I make is based on those two pictures and experiences. But I think, firstly, what one must realize is when they arrive in Stellenbosch, they go through a huge transition time. And it's not that simple. It's really difficult for some students, and for other students it's quite easy. They have to adapt in many ways to a world that they've heard of, but don't really know what it's about and fully understand what the impact of that. And secondly, students don't adjust always at the same pace. Some of them adjust much slower, some of them adjust quite faster, but the reality is that they come from such a vast variety of backgrounds and different backgrounds and places in South Africa that for some people the Western Cape is a total different world and they have no idea how it works here, and for other people it's much easier. So one must understand that their journey sometimes are quite complex and that their journey is really different, the one student from the other. The academic reality, of course, is also a challenging reality. For the first time, they need to try and find their feet as a student in terms of the academic world. And I always remember my daughter saying to me, she sometimes thinks that school was a much better option. Why? Because they actually wait for you. Those teachers wait for you when you fall behind. Stellenbosch never waits for you. The academic world at the university is a fast world. It's a world that constantly changes. It's new knowledge. It's some stuff they've never heard before. When you study theology, the issues regarding theological concepts and terminology and Old and New Testament in Greek and Hebrew, those students who follow those courses are challenging. It's not something that you've heard in school before. And it's not just a Bible study kind of world. It's a much more complex and in-depth world that you have to engage with. But to deal with these issues, of course, has also impact on your on your emotional world, on your spiritual world, on your physical life, because somehow you have to find new friends, because those 3 friends you had when you arrived here, if you had friends from the same town or the same school, they actually don't always last, because they are also taken up into their own course that they are studying in their world, in their hostel or wherever they live. And you have to find new friends, and you have to expose yourself to meet new people, and you have to participate in new challenges and new opportunities that you have to follow. So there are so many things that you have to deal with, and you have to make decisions constantly. There is no mother and father or brother and sister that's close to you always. So for the first time, you have to act on your own, and you have to deal with these things on your own. And that's quite challenging. And if you think about, the reality of life, it has an effect on you. And therefore, you have to learn to take responsibility. Now, for some students, that's scary. They don't know how to take responsibility. They don't know how to do things on their own. And therefore, they can get very lonely being in Stellenbosch and very isolated if they struggle. Or they can be very happy, very engaged, and use all the opportunities that's on the table. So as parents, we have to be aware that when we see our children and when we hear them, we have to just make sure that they're in a good space. And if they're not in a good space, it's important to try and deal with it in a responsible manner. Now, Dean, the second question, if you don't mind. It's not only the students that go through the transition, it's actually the parents as well. If this is your first child that you're sending to university, it's quite a difficult time for you as well, because suddenly your student is out of the house, they go to another world, they have a new life, and you have to cope on your own. Those of you who have only one child, or those of you who have more children, some person is not there anymore. So there's also a transition in terms of your life. Secondly, if you have more than one child that's already at university, remember the journey of this particular child is as important as the previous ones. That's a unique journey. It's important that you follow that journey and that you make sure that you give that student the chance for them to live life as they want to. Give them a chance to adapt at their own pace. Don't try to interrupt them constantly. Don't try to force them into issues. Please, if you went to university, when you went to university, this is not the same space anymore. It's a different world. So don't constantly remind your students of when you were at university, it worked this way, and constantly compare that. It's a different world. They have to find their own rhythm, their own space in this world, and they need your support, not your constantly resistance or questioning. They need your support to develop that. Now, what's also important is these students have a privilege to study here, and you must allow that student to develop him or herself while they are a student. Do not try and play guilt trips on them. And I'm using this as a particular example because sometimes when students leave house, they come to Stellenbosch, they are engaged in a very, very different world. And in that world, the pace is so quick that you sometimes forget to phone your mother. You sometimes forget to constantly send them a message, or you forget that, somebody's birthday, for example, sometimes, because the pace is so quickly. And then parents sometimes will constantly phone, we don't hear anything about you, what's going on, what are you doing? So allow students just to adapt and get themselves into a rhythm. And then secondly, I would like to emphasize this point, allow students to be who they are. So if they come home at some point and they have long hair and they look very differently than they used to look when they were in school, and they talk a different language, or short hair, or no hair, but they look differently. Allow them to be who they are, and remind yourself, it's still my child. It's still my child. And then also, when you have a student that's in university and they're very busy with their life and they have to work quite hard and they want to go and party sometimes and they meet new people, Please don't try and spy on them by asking, their colleague or their neighbor at the hostel or wherever they live to just, how's my son doing, or how's my daughter doing? Please, if there's anything, please let me know that I can be aware of it. Allow your student, trust them to live their life. I can promise you, if there's problems, they will contact you. You don't have to. When there's no money, they will phone you. When there is a question that they can't answer, they will come to you. Allow them to start developing their own language, their own way of thinking. When somebody studies theology, you have a perception of what that entails. It's very different than what we think. So they are confronted the whole time with complex issues, complex theological concepts, with theological issues that they have never even thought about. And their world is rattled. So what's important for us is when they come home, you need to be able to listen to them and not try and judge them. Don't try and compare them. Sit with them. Sometimes you just have a very small window. They will share when you create that spaces. But if they realize you're not listening to them, if they realize you're not really taking them seriously, they will not do trouble to speak to you anymore, and then you will have no idea what's going on to their world. I always say, never surprise your kids. Because if you live in Johannesburg, for example, and you think, I'm going to surprise my daughter or my son by planning a trip down to Cape Town, they're not aware of it, and suddenly I knock on the door and here I am. Please don't do that, because you will be surprised yourself. Why? Because you will feel that they don't have time for you, because their program is so busy sometimes that when you suddenly arrive there, you want to spend time with them and they are so busy, or they have a prior engagement, or they were planning to go away that weekend with friends, and now suddenly they're in a difficult situation. So it's much better to have open conversations with your kids and allow them the space. The more space you create for them, the more honest they will be with you. Can I say one more thing, please, Tim?
Yeah,
I think it's one more last thing. Students are very special people. And I always tell my daughter, she always asks me the question, prepare me for going to university. And then I say to her, I'm not going to tell you anything. And then she was quite upset. She asked me why. I said, no, because for decades, for centuries, being a student is such a privilege. And students always in the past have played a major role in changing society. And if you try to explain to them how university works, you try to box them into how they should think or not think, or what they should do or not do, you don't create a space where they are able to be free and to think freely and to develop their own thinking and to contribute in many ways. So if you allow your kids freedom and you allow your kids to make friends with whoever they want to make friends with, even if you don't like them, that's fine. But just respect that issue and respect the way how they see society and how they see life. You will be surprised what mature individual you will meet in a few years' time.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Prof. Tesner and Prof. Penkla Matulani. I think you speak as parents, with the heart of parents, but we can also pick up, you speak as pastoral theologians with a pastoral heart. And that's the embodiment of what the theology is all about. It's that pastoral care, that heart that you put into your work. And I appreciate what you shared today. So that is in essence, it embodies a pastoral heart, students who wants to make a change, but also students who will be disrupted in their growth so that they can grow as mature leaders making an impact in society. So the next section, we're going to listen to some of our student leaders where they will also share their experiences at the faculty. Thank you. So now we've listened to some of our lecturers, but now we're going to listen to some of our students. And in particular, some of our student leaders who have joined us in this wonderful conversation on the faculty. So first we have with us Tamara Wickham, as well as Matthias Foster, and they will share some of their experiences and also perhaps at the end give some advice to our prospective first year students. So Tamara, let me start with you. What are you currently studying at the faculty? What made you to decide to come to the faculty? Just as an introduction to who you are.
Okay, so hi everybody, I'm Tamara. I am studying a BTH youth work program. What made me come to the faculty was that I really wanted to make an impact in my community, and that was my idea coming into the faculty. And when I came into the faculty, I had an idea I wanted to do community work, but then I also just realized that the faculty offers so many different things. So I study youth work, but my end goal is to be a journalist because I really just want to impart knowledge and make knowledge known to everybody. So I think, that's what I wanted to do at the faculty.
Wonderful.
So hello, I'm Matthias, and I study BDiv. I'm currently 4th year. And what made me decide to study theology? They always say there's 2 types of people that study theology. Those that came in thinking it was interesting, and those that gained a calling. And I'm part of the latter. I was at a young age where I was called by God to study theology. I first didn't know what you had to just study to work for God, and then my parents say theology is the way to go. So I said, fine, I'll study it. And I must say, when I came being here, it's so much different than what I thought it would be, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. My end goal through studying theology is hopefully to become a minister, and maybe even doing a doctorate and becoming a professor, hopefully here at Stellenbosch. If Prof. Reggie is still around, maybe he will accept me.
Tell me, Matthias, just hold on. You said that when you came at the faculty, you discovered that it was different from what you expected initially. I'm going to ask you that again. In what sense was it different? Can you maybe just expand on that one?
So if I can maybe expand a bit on that. I came from Piketberg. So that is a very small town. It's very conservative. Many of the thoughts there are not always like as the faculty. And I was bombarded with all these new ideas, new concepts. And I must say, it was very interesting. I was actually thinking I would struggle a bit with it, and sometimes I did struggle, but you learn to love it. You learn to embrace it, and you learn to see, and you learn to say to yourself that my opinion isn't always the right opinion. Others do matter.
Wonderful. Tamara, from your side?
So initially when I came to the faculty, I didn't have a precise view on what theology was. I knew I wanted to come in to help, but like coming into the faculty, you see so many people from different backgrounds, different stories, different denominations, and you also learn that your view, like Matthias said, is not always the correct view, or my view is not everybody else's view, but everybody shares a different view. So I think that was also very eye-opening to see that everybody had a different view and we were all unique, but still so have like a common foundation amongst one another. So I thought that was really cool coming into the faculty, because I didn't know that, because everybody thinks theology is all about like the Bible and New Testament, Old Testament, and it was so much wider than that. Like your knowledge is so much that you gain from it is so much greater than just Old Testament and New Testament. So yeah.
So if there's students out there, prospective students, students who still, they feel, I want to make a difference, I want to make an impact in my society. I feel that sense of calling, I feel that sense of compulsion, I want to make a change. My question to you would now be, why would they have to choose Stellenbosch?
Okay, so I'm studying Stellenbosch. It is a really good university, but specifically theology. The dean has said earlier that there are so many different avenues that you can find within theology. So you can become a pastor like Matthias, a chaplain, a journalist. There's so many other avenues. And I think also when I look precisely at the faculty, when I look at the relations between lecturers and students, I see that lecturers challenge you more. And there's always this type of like gap between after class where you can go to them and ask questions where they challenge you. And you also realize that you can grow so much more and that you're challenged with so many more things than what you expected. So for prospective students, I think also the theology faculty, you want to make a difference, but there's also so many other avenues that you can make a difference within theology that you can expand into, as well as the lecturer is always there to help you alongside. So they challenge you a great deal. And also you just become better after all the challenging things that they challenge you with. Yeah.
Matthias?
If I can also just maybe sum it up for what Tamara also says, maybe it's a sense of community. Since we are I think one of the smallest faculties on Stellenbosch campus, you get that real sense of community. You're a family. There's no strangers between one another. As Tamara said, you have this almost like friendship that you grow with your friends of other denominations or even other faculties here, and also with the lecturer itself. I mean, I can think of a few of the lecturers that I have good relationships with, and I always go to them when I have troubles and questions. And also, I think what Stellenbosch offers is the faculty itself is very great and very broadening, since we are making strides within liberation theology, black theology, even feminist theology. And if that's not your route, like for me, what really hooked me when I wanted to come here was that the offering up of biblical archaeology, which I would really like to do more one day if I get the chance.
Now, I hear you, Matthias, if I get the chance. So, in a sense, if I can summarize what you are saying, is that it's that different pathways that theology offers for you beyond the pulpit. Yes, the pulpit, but also beyond that. You refer to journalism. Perhaps you want to make a difference in your society through community development work, working with NGOs, etc. So the pathways, but also the fact that we are challenged, to think differently. Challenged also within a space of diversity, to grow in different ways. And what you are referring to is the community, the sense of community that despite the fact that, yes, we have divergent views and it's fine to be different, but there's also a sense of community. Often, if you compare, you refer to the big and the smaller faculties. Often the smaller space provide more intimate relationships, whether it be among students, but also amongst lecturers. Now, the two of you are leaders in the faculty. You are now the new chair of the Theological Student Committee, and you are the vice chair, or should I say president of the Theological Student Committee. Share us a bit the possibilities and the opportunities that is within the campus, for leadership development, for making a difference in society, and specific things that you can maybe think of that happened from the faculty. I mean, the GBV kind of protest, I'd love to hear what you're thinking of. So Matthias, let's start with you. What are the possibilities, on campus, even within the faculty as well?
So our faculty has been in the news over the past few years with subjects like Liefde is Liefde, and advocating for the LGBTIQ community and I think gay rights. So that's one of the things that is currently also going on, and also with the gender-based violence that is going on in South Africa, which is really a very saddening thing, especially even during this time of lockdown. We saw that gender-based violence also grew over time, especially here in the Western Cape. And with us, we also are advocates that are against it. We always have Thursdays in Black, that was started by one of our own lecturers, Professor Julie Claessens, who's really striving for this thing that these things must stop. But also within our Stellenbosch area, we also have helping hands where we work at night shelters, if you feel that you want to go there. We also have Straatlig, which is part of the Kruiskerk, if you want to go into that area of helping with children after school work, and also with certain NGOs within the area, which really strive to help, and we really want to do things there.
Okay, so when I'm looking at leadership and the opportunities that we have within the university, I know that the university offers a lot of courses and on leadership. So I know we have health and leadership, we have facilitative leadership. So all of those things really shape you into being the perfect or most competent leader. When I look at our faculty as well, I think one of my proudest moments within the faculty specifically was the GBV movement. And I know it was at an all-time high last year with the protests at the university. And I know that we as a faculty really felt it. And I know that I went to the dean, me and a few other colleagues, and
Challenging the dean.
yeah, we're really challenging him to make like a change and a difference, or to provide like a different outlook. And I think that had to be my most proudest moment, because he really walked alongside us to make like a change, and also to offer different views. We started having like, you could go to our chaplain to go for counseling if you really needed it, because we know different people face different things. I think that was a really proud moment for me with our faculty, with him having an open arm to our suggestions and welcoming us to, to talk about our struggles and our worries and our concerns, and not just shutting us away, but really inviting us to speak.
And also making an impact in the broader campus environment.
Definitely.
I think that was also a way in which a small faculty could impact a bigger campus environment as well.
No, definitely. I remember also we were sitting with the late Mark Plaikes, and we invited the whole community, and I remember the camaraderie amongst all of us. We were all just standing in solidarity for this cause, and I think the love that we just felt between all the members inside our faculty as well as outside for just all the same cause, and also just standing for justice. I think that was really a momentous occasion.
Absolutely. So out there is prospective Faculty of Theology students. They are not sure, whether they'll be able to cope with their first year coming into faculty, coming into the campus of Stellenbosch. What practical advice would you give to a first year student joining faculty here at Stellenbosch?
Okay, so as you have heard, the faculty is a really small faculty, so that means we have a really sense of community among us. So we're basically like a family that laughs, argues, cries, again, argues a lot. So I think what I would give to prospective students is also making that cognitive decision to also become part of this community, to have conversations, because I feel once you have these conversations, you realize that my struggles and your struggles are kind of similar, and we can kind of like help each other along this path, because we are a really small faculty, so we kind of know what each other is going through. So I think that would be my one nugget for prospective students, is to become part of this community, become part of conversations. I think be kind as well. Be kind, be open, be receptive, because like we're going to come into this faculty and like my views, your views are going to be completely different. It's going to knock you upside the head. Don't be worried. It's all good. But I also think because we are the small faculty, we have each other to like walk alongside each other. So I think just become part of the conversation. It's really helpful.
Matthias?
For me, I think that advice that I would give would be willing to listen. I feel since many of us, we want to shut our ears to what some truths are and some opinions, and that it's not actually the right thing to do. Sometimes we must just be there to listen to what others have to say and respect. That's the second thing that I would also do, respect what others say when listening. And I think that you must also don't be afraid also to stand up for what you believe in and what you feel is the right thing. Because even though there is differences, it shouldn't be that you must give up your moral beliefs and what you believe is the truth. Because if it was that there was only one eternal truth, then the world will be a bit boring, I think. So I think that, that is what I would do, and that's my practical advice.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, you will see that all over the country, there are different teachers, maybe ministers, that makes a difference in their communities. There are the well-known names like Professor Russell Botman, who became the rector of the university. Oom Beyers Nodia, who became a leader in the South African context. Where did they start? They started here, where Matthias and Tamara is here today. Students within the faculty community, within the Stellenbosch Faculty of Theology, student leaders who make a difference here, and that's how they grow towards becoming key leaders in our society. And you can also make that difference. Join us at the Faculty of Theology at Stellenbosch University.